I'm Lesley Canarium, Reader Conversations librarian at the Rogers Public Library, and May's Adult Take It, Make It program is Mosaic coasters. This is one of my absolute favorite crafts to do. I've been doing it for many years, but I want to stress quite seriously, this is an adult craft. This project requires working with broken glass. You will probably be breaking more glass pieces. Even though I've been doing it for many years, I never ever do it without cutting myself. So I always make sure I have Band-Aids handy. You will probably want some kind of eye protection, which I forgot to bring in today, so I'll show you what to do without it. And this is just not something you should be doing with children, or even with children probably in the room. So with that warning, let's get started. When you open up your kit, there's going to be an ordinary porcelain tile. This is just like one you can pick up at any hobby store or any hardware store, really. They're very cheap. And there's going to be two contrasting colors of stained glass. These are scrap pieces. You can, if you like this kind of project, you can just buy boxes of broken glass, or I'll talk a little bit more about if you want to get a little fancy, some of the things you can do. So, trace the outside of your tile on a piece of paper so you know the space you have to work with. You do not want your broken glass sticking out on the edge of the tile over the edge because, you know, somebody could cut themselves on that. And I looked at these colors and I said to myself, tiger stripes. So that's the kind of design I came up with, your basic kind of tiger stripey design. You want something really simple. Geometric shapes, or you can just divide the square into, 4 pieces or whatever, or stripes, whatever you want to do. But make sure it's simple and make sure it's flexible, because you want to let the shape of your pieces guide your design and not the other way around. You can break the pieces so they fit better into your design, but you can't do that much of it, and it can be a very frustrating process. If you've done this sort of thing before, or you decide you want to get a little more elaborate, I have made a lot of people initial coasters with their, the initial of their names. So if you want to do something like that as a gift, once again, make sure it's a very simple design. You don't want to get all loopy because the glass pieces just aren't going to let you. So I've got my design and I've got my glass pieces, and I want to start just, fitting them in. Think of this as sort of like a jigsaw puzzle, except the pieces, well, they're not gonna, you don't have a final picture to work from, and you just have to kind of fit all the pieces in. This is the part of the craft that I really like doing because I love jigsaw puzzles, but also it involves a lot of sitting and staring at your glass. So we're going to skip through most of that, and I'll show you what to do when you run out of pieces that fit. So this is after several minutes of, I guess maybe about half an hour of staring at my glass and pieces and trying to decide what I can do. You can see I've altered the design a little bit to make it work with the glass that I have. But also, oh no, I've run out of pieces that fit, and uh-oh, it's slopping over the edges a little bit there, so what do? Well, at this point, it's okay. You can break up those pieces that you've got. And how you want to do this is, first of all, once again, I do recommend using eye protection, which I forgot, but that's okay. I forget all the time at home. And you want at least 2 plastic bags, one inside the other. This table would be okay without padding, but when I work at home, I work on a rather nice wooden table. So I make sure I have a thick piece of cardboard underneath so I don't damage the table. And then you get your implements of destruction. I do a lot of glass work because I like it. So I got one of these things. This is great. It's heavy. You can use it to clip the edges, though. I've also got some glass knives and things that you can do to be a little more deliberate in how you shape your pieces. But you can really, for this kind of thing, you can use anything that's heavy. I also happen to love my meat tenderizer. A plain old hammer will work too, just fine. So, okay, let's take a look at this piece that's a little bit slopping over the edge here. And, okay, I'm going to want to try and crack off. Now, I could get out my glass cutter and, you know, mark the edge here and score it with a knife, then carefully crack it with the glass cutters. But first of all, y'all don't have those kind of tools, probably. And second of all, I usually don't do that because it isn't any fun. That's sort of like doing a jigsaw puzzle, and when your piece doesn't fit, taking a pair of scissors and trimming the edges to make it fit. And that's not any fun. So put your piece of glass that you want to break inside in 2 glasses. Point the opening away from you. If you've got your eye protection, put it on. If you don't, look away and just give it a nice, sharp wrap. Let's see what we got in here. Did it break? No. Okay, look sharper wrap then. There, I can hear that. Okay. Once again, please remember these pieces are sharp. And back in it goes. Now you can see I did not just, you know, clip off that edge. I clipped off a lot more pieces. I've got a lot of little shards here to work with. Let's pour them out and see what I can do with them. And also, beware every time you move this thing, it's going to readjust your pieces. So you want to just check and make sure that you're still doing what you want it to do. Remember, they don't have to exactly touch. This is what the grout's for, to keep you from having to, and also it kind of harmonizes your design and brings it together. I've got a design now that I like worked out. Now, you just want to glue all the pieces onto your tile. Fair warning, for some reason, no matter how carefully you plan this all out, they're just not going to match up quite exactly when you actually start gluing them into place. So once again, you want to be prepared for some flexibility. Let your glass pieces guide your design and not the other way around. Any sort of white or clear craft glue will work. I use clear glue when I'm working with clear glass, or sometimes I use a mirror as a backdrop. But, and you want to let the light through. But the white glue, with this kind of milky glass, white glue dries quite clear enough. And once again, as you're working, make sure nothing's slopping over the edge. One thing I hope you all caught while you were watching me doing that is pieces that looked great when they were on the pattern, all of a sudden magically didn't fit when they were on the porcelain tile. And that's okay. You can pick things up, move things, shape them around until you've got a pattern that you like. Even if you get a little glue on your fingers, get a glue on the top of the glass, that's okay. You can wipe that right off with a damp cloth once the whole thing is dry. And now, that you've got your glass pieces all in place, check one more time around the edges to make sure nothing's slopping over the edges. And now you're going to want to set it aside to dry. You'll probably want to let it dry at least overnight. The next part of the project is grouting your coaster. And as you can see, this is a different design than the one we started with because I wanted to show you some more possibilities. There were a lot of little scraps of glass left over because I've given you in your kits plenty so you could be very flexible in your design. And if you enjoy doing this, don't throw away those little scraps because this sort of crazy quilt design is one that I put together with all the little pieces that didn't fit into the kits I put together, and I just mixed them all together. And then if you want to get really fancy, you can go to a craft store, or I had someone give me a bunch of the regular mosaic tiles, and I just made it a border to sort of pull it all together. But however you do it, grouting process is the same. Very simple, a little bit messy. You should have gotten a bag full of grout. You want to mix it in a container that's disposable because you don't want to rinse any leftovers down the sink. You don't want to wash this. You just want to throw it out. This will set in your pipes sure as anything. So you take the powder, and you do have the option of coloring it. They make special grout colorants, which are powdered colors. Or I discovered last year that the ancient classical mosaics, when they used colored grout, they would color it using ground spices, which I just thought was the coolest thing. So I've been practicing with this. This is turmeric. This is the thing that makes your mustard yellow. It's an awfully pretty color. But you don't have to do this at all if you don't want to. I almost always use just plain white grout, and it's perfectly pretty and perfectly nice. If you decide to color it with, I've used turmeric, I've used paprika, I've used some other spices, but just put in a little bit. You don't want to use a lot because, I mean, the point of this is to have grout, not to have something that smells like mustard. And mix that all together. So it's just going to give a kind of a faint creamy color to the, it's not going to turn it bright yellow. If you want bright colors, you will have to use the professional grout colorant. And then you want to add water very slowly. I gave you about 3 tablespoons of grout, so it should be about 1 tablespoon of water. But if you dump it all in, sure enough, you're just going to have a mess on your hands. You just want to take your water and mix it in very slowly. Let's just put a little dribble there. Mix that in. You can see how it's making that nice creamy yellow color. All right, dribble a little more in. You can use a spoon for this. You can cover your hands with plastic gloves if you like. I personally don't because, you know, it's messy. That's just how it is. Let's try just a little bit more. It can turn from this consistency to soup in just the blink of an eye, so you don't want that to happen. Okay, I think we're just about there. What you're looking for is the consistency, roughly, of toothpaste. So thick and pasty and not too liquid. All right. You got it pretty good. Okay. And you just take your grout and put a glop on, and you're just going to start working it in. Ideally, the spaces between your tile, your pieces of glass is going to be about 3 millimeters, about 1/8 of an inch. If it's too more, it's going to just too much more. It's going to look just too grouty. If it's too much less, it won't hold your tiles in place. Because remember, it's not really the glue that's holding your tiles in place, your glass pieces. It's actually this grout. When it sets, it's going to be like hard plaster. So what you want to keep doing is just keep pushing it down and forcing it in. And so making sure it's good and solid between all these pieces. Don't worry about the fact that it's covering the glass. You're going to take care of that later. And you're going to get to the point you say, oh, I just cannot possibly smush anymore in there. Well, you're wrong. You can. Just keep doing it. Remember how I kept, when you were gluing on the glass pieces, and I kept saying, you want to be careful. You don't want to go over on the edge. Well, this is why, because you want to run grout along the edges of all your glass pieces, because, you know, suppose you're making this coaster as a Mother's Day gift from Mom, or Grandma. You don't want her to pick up her coaster and slice her finger on a piece of sharp glass. So you're just going to take all that grout and run it over the edges like that, just to make sure all the edges are filled in. And then what you're going to want to do is let this sit for about 10 or 20 minutes. Not too long. You don't want it to dry rock hard, but you want to give it a chance to settle in and slightly dry before you do the last bit of cleanup. So we'll just let that set for a few minutes, and about 10 minutes, and then I'll show you how you finish. Okay, we've given this about 15 minutes to dry, which is good enough, because now we just want to clean off the rest of the film. What you're going to want to do is take a clean, dry sponge or paper towels or dust rag or something like that. You don't want to use your good kitchen sponge, however, because it will get kind of nasty. And then just very gently buff that film off, so you can let all the pretty colors of your glass shine through. And you can see how what was sort of a hodgepodge of just random shapes, somehow magically, when you put that grout in them, it just ties it all together and it makes an actual design. And it all looks very harmonious and pretty. This is plaster, of course, so it's going to make some dust. So if you have any sort of lung problems, please wear a mask so you don't get plaster in your lungs. You can see how some of the glass pieces have sort of a natural bubble to them, and they're clinging to that grout more than the others. So you just want to give it a little scratch, like you're scratching a kitty. Not too hard, because you don't want to dig the glass pieces out. And once you've got this buffed down, the way you like it and you're happy with it, you do want to let it sit and dry for at least overnight again, one more time. At that point, they do make grout sealer that you can buy at a craft store. It's a clear polyurethane coat. You can apply it if you wish. I honestly don't do it because, you know, glass and grout, they're naturally waterproof and stain resistant. And I've never had a problem with any of the projects I've made getting stained. But, you know, I suppose they make it for a reason. And once you're finished and it's dry, you've let it dry overnight. You also have in your kit one of these little cork pads. I'm not going to do it now because I want to let this give it a chance to dry. And this backing peels off and you can seal it on the back so your coaster will, you know, not mark the surfaces of the tables. However, I would not, after you peel off the sticky part, I've not had good luck with it actually staying stuck. So I would also put some glue on there and then just set it down and once again, let it dry thoroughly. And then there you go. Nice, colorful coaster that you've made and designed yourself. And it's unique to you. And please take pictures of it and show us on your Instagram or your Facebook account so we can delight in the beautiful things that you've made.